how is that different from in terms of process and questions being asked in a session with a client? I mean, do you have a different approach than a psychotherapist or from a regular tarot reading?
Your questions are wonderful. So let me take those two questions separately. One thing I discovered when I did my master's thesis in using tarot and I Ching as tools of psychotherapy, I did a workshop on tarot for the class. And by accident, I'd brought 8 decks. And just to show people that there are decks from every country in the world, that these symbols and images are universal. And I asked somebody to volunteer, and since I had 8 decks, to pick a deck, which she did. And the images that she picked happened to be Greek instead of the usual images of the sun. And in the sun card, it was the Parthenon. Well, her family was Greek, and this was more meaningful to her. And that's what I discovered almost by accident, the way that the universe puts its 2 cents in when we have an accident. And I discovered that if people pick the deck, they will have more emotional resonance with it, and the synchronicities will be more accurate. And so I'm not doing what a tarot reader is doing. Tarot reader will usually have one deck. Traditionally, it's the Rider-Waite deck. I'll show an image of that. And it's the tarot reader holds the deck. The tarot reader shuffles the cards, and then the tarot reader will interpret what that means for somebody, and oftentimes do predictive interpretations. Now, a good tarot reader is worth their weight in gold. I have respect for that psychic ability, but I'm using it within the context of psychotherapy. So I'm very careful not to go toward predictions. And I'm asking the person to choose a deck. I'm asking the person, how many cards do you need to see? So a therapy session will look very similar in some ways, in that somebody will come in concerned about something. I'll begin to talk to them about what they're concerned about. I'll ask them to lay that out for me. And then I will ask them to take a deep breath and focus inward and ask themselves, how many cards do they need to see? How are they laid out in their mind's eye? What's the meaning of each placement? So what I'm doing is I'm counseling somebody's unconscious. I'm asking somebody's unconscious what their inner map is. And we're laying that inner map on the table. And in my experience, that goes right to the heart of the issue. And it goes a lot deeper than having a conversation just from our conscious understanding of what's going on. So it'll bring the images themselves. I don't approach images with a preconceived idea. Again, that's different than a tarot reader who would understand perhaps the Four of Swords in a certain way. I'm approaching the images like we would a dream, and I'm asking the client, what does this bring up for you? What is this? I'm pointing out details and saying, what does this dictator in this image bring up for you? And the client will say, well, my dad was a dictator. And then we're into the story that's more important for them. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
And why I say it's interesting because you are avoiding to put your energy, as you said, preconception into the cards and influence the outcome. Is like what we do with, and I tell everyone, with the words and the water. The moment we put out our intention through the words, that's a vibration, a resonance that goes into the wall. But if the client imbues the cards with his own or her vibration, then there is no influence from your side or external influence, but only their own. And that's very interesting indeed.
Yes. And there is, as I said, this is a way of petitioning the deeper psyche, the unconscious, which I think is a vast resource of wisdom. I believe that we have a wisdom within us that is boundless, because like dreams, when we're sleeping, when we're tapping into the unconscious in a semi-trance state, there are no boundaries in time or space. And so that the wisdom is coming from the unconscious of the client. I am an interpreter. I will reflect to them also what I see in the cards. I will offer my reflections. But what's important is what resonates for them. And again, I find that that we're inviting also this universal consciousness into the room, because there is this thing of synchronicity. There's this uncanny way in which they pick exactly the deck and exactly the card for what's going on. And I'm not in control of that session. I am an apprentice, or I am in service to that deeper wisdom that is within them and within higher consciousness.